Okay. So I'm gonna record this call for everybody who couldn't make it today. But can you all see the presentation?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm on my phone. How do I?
I'm on my phone also.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. You guys can also you can just listen in for now, but I'll make sure that I post this recording afterwards, and then you can
Okie dokie. That's cool.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is our second call here, and so I sent this agenda out to you all, but just as an update, first we're going to go over like updates on our strategies. So for those of you who weren't on our first call, hopefully you were able to look through our meeting minutes and kind of see where people are at. And so we're just going to give a little update as to where your campus is at following your strategy. And then next, it's going to be the bulk of our meeting, which is talking about tracking systems. And so that's why we have George here, who's from GivePulse. So we're very thankful to have him. And then we have Ari here as well, just so that we can all provide different perspectives on it. So we'll start a little bit with an overview. So I'll do a little bit about benefits, functionalities, and then some challenges. But I know some of you on this call, your campuses already have tracking systems, or if you don't, but feel free to jump in at any point in time to provide your own experiences or perspectives. And then we'll end with next steps and then any questions or discussion.
Cool. Great.
All right. So first we're going to start with some updates. So I included some of the slides from our first call, just so that you guys have a refresher as people are speaking. But for those of you who I didn't include your slide, please feel free to just jump in. First, Katie Turk from our science college isn't here today. She's on her spring break, but in terms of her update, she just wanted me to tell you all that she's been trying to pull together her student coalition. But however, that's been a really difficult process. She's had some of her center interns reach out to these different students, but it's been really hard for them to pick a representative to come to a meeting. So she's still trying to pull people together, but she's hoping that by the end of this month, they'll have their first meeting together. So that's an update from Katie. I can kind of just flip through here. Betsy, would you mind sharing a little bit about your strategy, where you're at with that?
In terms of campus-wide engagement?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Betsy. This is George.
Hey, how is everybody?
Hey.
So, I think the way that we really approach campus-wide engagement is by offering the highest quality possible student development activities, and bring people in through that. So there are absolutely people on campus who are engaging in communities not through the SWER Center, and many of those students are engaging through our Student Activities Office. And so we've partnered with the SAO office, and we will be offering a weekend retreat for all of the leaders of those student activities clubs, for them to come and be trained by us on all sorts of learning outcomes that we feel are essential for effective action and leadership and communication. And so working closely with SAO has been one way to get to campus-wide strategy. But then another way that we've done it is by opening our student development offerings to everyone on campus. So some of you saw my post about a series that we're presenting this semester on that we've called What Now? Civic Engagement in the New Political Era. And that's drawing people from all over campus, not just people from within the SWER Center. But remember, there are 6,000 students at Brown, and about 1,000 of them are already engaged through SWER. So even though stuff's happening not through SWER, I don't know, there's a fair amount happening through us also. So, and then another strategy that we've used is to build much closer relationships with staff at other identity centers on campus. So the Brown Center for Students of Color, the LGBTQ Center, the Sarah Doyle Center for Women, and that helps because we share a lot of students. So yeah, we really liked the idea of a calendar where people could share what they're planning, but Brown really does have a pretty robust calendar that everybody adheres to, and asking folks to do something new is hard to ask. Just to put in one more plug, I think we're hoping that our volunteer management system, GivePulse, all right, George, you can pay me later, is going to help us also with a campus-wide strategy, because students who aren't necessarily affiliated with the SWARE Center program, but are working with a similar community partner, will be managed by that community partner through the platform. And they sign up for SWARE Center student development trainings and workshops through the platform. So we're hoping that helps drive a more coordinated effort on campus. That said, it's kind of, there was just a survey done about community engagement on campus where SWARE was like, we weren't even running the survey. So, it's just, I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, how's that for an update?
Hey, Betsy, can I ask a question for you? Because it was noted that you have a coalition with, looks like, about 14 student leaders. Given what Sam was reporting about Ursinus, how they were struggling to identify students, can you offer any tips or suggestions for how you selected and got those students to be a part of it?
Sure. Are you talking about, I don't have the slide up in front of me, I'm sorry. Is that the Student Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what's selected from you that's called Student Coalition. It says 3 Bonner Community Fellows, 2
Right.
1 off-campus work study, 1 engaged scholar. Yep. Yeah.
Those are all SWARE Center programs.
Okay.
So that's pulling, so if you want to work off campus at Brown, that is pulled through the SWARE Center. And then this is how we're involved with 1,000 students on campus. But we also have a student advisory committee that we intentionally recruit students to who are not already involved in SWARE, because I think it's really important for us to capture who's not here and to understand why they're not here.
Mm-hmm.
And so giving students an opportunity to lead, even when they're not involved with the center, has been really beneficial in helping us understand how we're not meeting the needs of other people on campus.
Yeah. I think your strategy of using a retreat and using trainings is a very good one. For many years, one thing Davidson College did was something like that, where they got about 40, and at the end of the day, they had about 40 students come to a retreat. And part of the focus was to get each of those students to share what they were doing in civic engagement. Mm-hmm. And then they ended up coming up with a strategy they called Engage for Change, which was a 2-week campus-wide event that all of those different groups contributed to. And each year they picked a different theme, like homelessness, and then they spotlighted that theme and all the different ways people were addressing it. It became a nice rally call for moving from like the service to activism across the whole spectrum. A good strategy.
Nice.
Yeah. But it started with a retreat, so that students were kind of going through a shared visioning process and trainings together.
Thank you, Betsy. That also
You're welcome.
reminds me a lot of Stetson. Stetson's doing a very similar, their strategy is very similar. They're also doing a retreat, like working with student activities and trying to connect with all of the other, just like you said, like identity organizations on campus, like the Multicultural Center and that type of thing too. So, well, all right. So Liz or Greg, are you on this call yet? No. Okay. Ian, do you want to give a bit of an update from your end at University of Tampa?
Unfortunately, I don't have much to report, but I'm hoping when the students come back next week, I'm going to have one of my students who who you met, Sam, who was your tour guide. He kind of helps me do broader, big picture things as opposed to any specific program. I'm going to have him start reaching out to different groups to help coalition moving for fall. So I put that on his list today. So I think that'll be good. We kind of explain what we want to do and get different people who are interested. And then in fall, we can really get rolling with it.
Cool. Great. And I think that makes a lot of sense too, because I feel like these strategies can never be like implemented right away. It always takes a little bit of time for it to actually work out. So cool. All right. Claudia, are you on this call? No. So maybe Zane, could you give a little bit of an update as to like what Maryville is doing in regards to student-led campus-wide engagement?
One thing we're working on doing is trying to collect the data on who our students actually are. So we don't have good information on who likes what and who shows up to what. So one thing that we're trying to do is work with student development and student activities to figure out who's coming to what events and to target them that way, because we're already hooked in with our student organizations. We help a lot of them plan service events or get them in touch with organizations to partner with. But our issue isn't so much getting organizations involved in doing things, it's getting students to do them. Because what we're seeing is that it's the same students showing up and being involved in leadership and doing honor and doing service. So we are trying to cross-reference with admissions and registration, and then figure out how best to market our activities to people. So it's kind of in the back end phase that we're focusing on right now.
Cool.
That makes sense. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Got it.
One thing I think that helps there, Zane, is even almost like a little qualitative, a couple of focus groups with students that are not.
Yeah.
As well as the ones you're kind of major, they show up all the time, and kind of.
Yeah.
And like asking both of them probably separately, maybe even one together, some questions around like, why are you engaged or not engaged? How are you hearing about it or not hearing about it? What would bring you out? What would inspire you? And I think when that kind of getting beyond the choir kind of is like, you got to go back to basics of what would be a really inspiring, catalyst way to bring people out.
Okay. Yeah, that helps. I mean, we've got a career fair for nonprofit organizations tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we worked a lot with different organizations right now. So that's kind of been one of our focuses, in getting connected with, so our students during their junior year have to do a significant practical experience, and we've been connecting with faculty to help in the advising period.
Yeah.
To plan ahead for what they might do as their placement. So I mean, we've been building relationships like that, but it's the things that we've been having to do have not really lent itself to getting at the core problem. So we're just not making a whole lot of progress at it right now.
And that's where you can find that it's interesting, because the stuff that faculty need to hear and want to hear can be really different than what the unengaged students want to hear.
Right, because they want to know what's worthwhile for my class,
And
other than when we're interested in building relationships with partners and this mountain bike trail needs people to come out and work with them. It's like, well, how do I teach my kids about biology or whatever out there? Well, I don't know, figure it out.
And I also
trying to help them figure out ways it's useful, and if it's not exactly something
Yeah,
Like there's not a lot of creativity or winging it that they want, and that's
yeah. That can be an area where your bonders can really shine and lead, because also I think for a lot of students who are not engaged, if they know it's fun, they'll come out. So part of it is making it fun.
Yeah, see, we have, yeah, see, it's not so much that it's fun or letting people know it's fun. Like, what we're interested in is if our students are financially capable to make the decisions that come to this stuff. Because what our kind of gut feeling on this, and we don't have the numbers, is that our students are either not prepared for their coursework and they're spend too much time doing homework, or they have to work to make money to be here all the time. That's why we're not getting.
Okay, that's good to know.
So I mean, like some of it's an identity question more than anything, and that's what we're trying to figure out.
That's good, and that kind of might help you refine your strategy too, in terms of maybe then.
Yeah, I mean, like we're just throwing everything that we can with different people on campus.
Great.
Does anyone else want to share kind of updates if we haven't gotten to you yet? Did we hit everyone?
Hey, Sam.
Oh, hey.
No, I'm late. Sorry. I'm in a public space, so this might be awkward, but whatever. I think an update we're looking at right now is the Carnegie classification and seeing how that can really help with campus-wide engagement. One of the things we're asking is, what's the return on investment for even being classified within this designation? So we're looking at the materials, we're looking at some of the campus infrastructure, and I personally see it as a way that we can hopefully build our infrastructure into some of the areas that we don't have service. So that's what we're examining. If any of y'all are in Carnegie classification schools and can talk about the return on investment for that, that'd be great. Travis and I talked earlier today, actually, and he said that, through their classification, their school ended up, that's been one of their major pushes for T&P and service learning was through their Carnegie classification. So that was kind of interesting. Other than that, not too much going on.
Cool.
In regards to updates, Ian and I are going to be at NASPA, and we're giving a presentation on Bonner. So we're excited.
Get excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna tape it and send that so you can post something on the wiki?
Our presentation?
Yeah. Or I mean, definitely your slides, but like a little story would be fun.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do Facebook Live too, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe Snapchat story.
When is your presentation? Is it on Monday or
It's on Monday morning.
Wow.
You gonna be there?
Yeah, I'm gonna be in I'm gonna be in San Antonio for NASPA, so I might even bump into you.
All right, I'm gonna put my cell phone up in the group chat. All right, so we get the Bonner Squad party going.
That's cool.
All right.
Ari said she reimbursed us, so
Yeah. I
Then
hear.
definitely party.
for a Bonner love meeting, right?
There's supposed to be like 8,000 people there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Joy, I'll put it in there, bro.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Should I bill Ari or should I bill Bob? Or I'll keep the receipts. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh. All right, cool. Well, thank you for sharing all. So I guess kind of like transitioning a little bit now. Now that we've talked about like our strategies and how we're working towards them, I think that a lot of the issues and a lot of the things that we're talking about are going to be very relevant when we're talking about tracking systems, the second part of our call. But like I said, for all of you, like I know, Betsy, you said that your Brown uses GivePulse. I know, Ian, your campus uses OrgSync. So if you want to plug in at any point, please do. George and Ari and anyone who wants to plug in, please do as well. Yeah, so in terms of what we're trying to learn today, I came up with just like 3 learning objectives. So one, just understand the purpose of impact of tracking campus-wide engagement. So why is this important? Gain some introductory knowledge about a bunch of different existing tracking systems. So knowing about as many as we can, and also about tracking systems in general. And then connecting the information that we learned today about tracking systems back to the strategies that you're already trying to implement back on your campuses for student-led campus-wide engagement. And so just thinking about tracking systems, I came up with three basic benefits to tracking systems as a whole. And so one was, this is like pretty big, and I'm going to get into each of these benefits as well, but just thinking that the resulting metrics that can come from having a tracking system on your campus can serve in 2 different roles, like for institutional validation or assessment, as well as external sources of funding or accreditation, like the Carnegie classification, like you're talking about, Matt. Another one is that the tracking system can kind of connect like civic engagement, community engagement to your academics. So then it gives a mechanism to monitor service learning and community-based research. And then last, the tracking system can serve as a structure for both the campus and the center to be able to increase campus-wide engagement, which is ultimately our goal. And so one of the reasons why we're talking about tracking systems in this context is just not saying that like you all need to have a tracking system or if you don't already have one, but kind of just talking about what role it can play in the strategies we're working towards to increase campus-wide engagement.
So one thing just to add on there, I know Sam's done a really great job pulling this together, and a lot of the materials has come from folks in the network like Savannah and Kevin at Stetson, folks at Oberlin, folks at Earlham, that have contributed and said, hey, this is how we chose this tracking system, this is what we've done to roll it out. And while you all, I know Sam has related, are still formulating your strategies for increasing campus-wide engagement, but the staff have talked about how it can take, 1 year, even to probably 6 months to make a choice and get the money lined up. Another year, a year to roll something out, and over probably 3 years to really get it up in place. So it's not too early to begin thinking about what you're doing with this. And even if you do have a system in place, how might you use the opportunity of collaboration and linking it with that system so that you can achieve your goals?
So when we're talking about the metrics part of it, so some of the metrics that a tracking system can provide, so it's like the classic things that you can think of, but also some that aren't so obvious. So obviously, like the number of hours served, like the service projects completed, like the percentage of engagement, and it could be categorized by faculty or department or programs, service learning courses, CBR, academic projects, community capacity building, so like the number and types of grants that are written, or financial resources devoted, so kind of that monetary aspect of it as well. And also things like the number of service opportunities per year, the number of service opportunities your campus has. So these are just some examples of like some of the metrics that can come out of having a tracking system. And so why that would be useful, so it's like in two different ways it could be useful. So one, for institutional validation or assessment. So thinking about if you get these questions from your institution, like how does community engagement work towards our institution's mission and strategic plan? Or why does your center need resources? Why does it need more resources or staffing? And how does civic and community engagement connect to student learning outcomes? So all of these different, like when you get these different types of questions, you obviously answer them in the way that you do, but it can also be bolstered if you have different tracking system metrics. So different stats and data that you can use to back up what you're saying. So that's one half of it. And then the other way that metrics can be really helpful is through thinking about external sources too. So thinking about funding. So if you're applying for grants, they often ask you, like, what evidence can you provide to demonstrate that your campus is civically engaged? So that's one way metrics can come in. Another way is, like, if you're trying to get on the President's Honor Roll or get Carnegie classified, having all this data is really useful and also necessary. And then with partnerships, it's like when community partners are looking at trying to create a relationship with your campus, you can kind of look to all these metrics to show that you would have a mutually beneficial relationship together. So that's kind of the first half, how the metrics can really be beneficial in that way, in two different ways. And then moving on to the second benefit, saying that there's a connection to academics. So being at higher ed institutions, having a tracking system, you can train faculty and how to use it and use it really well. So then they can utilize the tracking system in their service learning courses and their CBR projects. And then that can kind of have two really great results. So one, you have a catalog of all of the CE courses you have on your campus, as well as projects that can serve as a reference for both students and staff and faculty. And then you can also use the tracking system as encouragement for other faculty to use it and for the campus to use it in general. So that's the second benefit in terms of connection to academics. And last, thinking about how the tracking system can boost campus-wide engagement. So I think a lot of things can fall under this category, but just a couple. Like, one is you can use it as a recruitment tool for large service events. So you can post large service events, and this also falls, like, you can use the data that you glean from a tracking system to be able to target specific messages for audiences that you're trying to bring to your service events. And then last, you can also use it, it's a centralized source, so all the students know where to find information about service, about different opportunities on campus or off campus. So this includes things like you can post volunteer schedules, so when people are going to service sites, and this can help with carpooling because transportation is often a really large issue on our campuses. And something else is maybe you can post, like, who's going, like what students are going, or what site student supervisors are going. So then you can kind of have like a buddy system for new volunteers. So it's less scary for them to go. And so those are just like three very broad benefits that bringing a tracking system to your campus can provide. But in terms of grounding it in what we're trying to do in our learning community, is just thinking about the use of a tracking system as like one potential mechanism to boost our current strategies that we're working on now. And so thinking about how that actually kind of works. So we've been talking about what our strategy is, what your campus strategy is to boost student-led campus-wide engagement. And so we talked and articulated those strategies in our first call. But now we did also talk about what our goals are, like, but very broadly. Like, maybe we want to increase campus-wide engagement in general. We want to use student leadership, but we're also trying to think more about quantitative goals too. So, and that's where tracking systems can come in, because like we were talking about before, you have a lot of metrics and data that you can pull out of it. And so tracking systems is one potential mechanism that we can use to reach our quantitative goals. So as we continue moving on in this call and in our strategies, maybe we can also start to think about not only our goals, but what quantitative goals we want to reach. So things like maybe you want to reach like 60% engagement, or have like all the Greeks involved, something like that. And that's where like tracking systems can really come into play, as well as other types of assessment, like the NACI assessment, which is coordinated by the Siena Research Institute. So there's a bunch of different mechanisms that we can use. So we're just talking about tracking systems today.
Yeah, and I'll add one example on. So I know when Savannah from Stetson has led a couple of workshops that have been at the High Impact Institutes in the past, or at SLI, and she talked a little bit about, and I want to pick up on two things that we're saying, Sam. One of the strategies that they used at Stetson was to engage Greek life, because they have a lot of students, more than a majority of students are part of Greek organizations. And what they did is position the Bonner Center as the providers of trainings to student life organizations. And they also got them to write it into their charters that they had to do, like civic engagement. But they also made a really significant change in that was noteworthy, which is that because sometimes organizations kind of get the reputation for doing drive-by service, like that one-time thing, and they're gone, right? So they actually used the Bonner developmental model and the notion of deep partnerships, and they got the Greeks to adopt a partner for 3 years. So that was kind of a cool strategy, because then they worked across all Greek life, giving these presentations and trainings to the different leaders. And as a result, that was a major way of increasing their campus-wide student engagement and connection to student affairs. They also worked on the academic side. So they did a series of presentations that were connected to a first-year experience course that was co-taught by someone from student affairs and academic affairs. They had different, 25 sections, and several of them had civic engagement components. So that was, that also was something that they really trained the faculty to use the system. And it was over the course of a year or longer, so that was not the first thing they did. But those are just two good things. And like Zane, that second one might be something that if you are finding you need to link with helping incentivize students' connections to their performance in school or retention issues. You might think more about that later piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been talking about tracking systems in general, but thinking about specific tracking tools. Today we have George from GivePulse. So that's one tracking tool that we're gonna see right after this, so you'll hear me stop talking. But there's also a lot of other tracking tools. So for those of you who can't see it, you'll see it later, but there's OrgSync,
Logistics.
Nice.
It's like logistics, but then with the V.
I practiced it a couple times too.
It's okay. Yeah, it's a tongue twister.
Okay. That's why we're on the call, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically there's tons of them on here, like Salesforce and Noble Hour. So there's a lot of different ones to research and see if this is something that you want to do. There's a lot of different ones that might be the right fit for you. And so now I wanted to pass it over to George a little bit to talk about some functionalities. So these functionalities that I've listed on the slides are very general. So different things to think about when you're looking at tracking systems, like can community partners post opportunities? How can students track their engagement, learning outcomes, reflection? How can faculty track their courses and hour approval? So I have like a bunch of different functionalities to look at. So you all can look at that a little later. But I was gonna pass it over to George to show you actually how GivePulse has these functionalities and how one tracking system works.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. All right, let me see if I could share my screen here.
Yeah, let me see.
Let's start screen share while the other, oh, okay, you might have to pass it over to me, I think.
There you go.
Okay. Am I showing my screen right now?
I think you have to go, Sam, to the list of people and let him
Oh,
be the
okay.
lead or something.
Okay.
Make.
Okay.
Cool. Do you see my screen now? Or it says I'm the host now.
Yes.
Oh, do I have to press
Screen share?
to continue? Yes. Oh, and then I get to select. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Great.
All right, great. All right, cool. All right, so thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm gonna try to be unbiased as much as possible because I do understand that everyone has their own system, but it's also about like why even have a system. Coming from a technology standpoint, just like all type of technology, it's all about helping you aggregate and streamline all the manual labor that could potentially come when it comes down to understanding how service learning or community engagement can enable student success, as well as also have a pulse of the community impact that you're having. So GivePulse is one of many tools. I would have to say that we're different in the fact that we do things differently and we have a different mission. But I think Sam provided a great list of all the tools that are out there. I'd even consider some of them have a different focus and not necessarily for community engagement, but some are CRM systems. So you might have heard of Salesforce. Salesforce is a great CRM system where they've done a really good job of penetrating into the business side of it, enabling sales folks to capture customer relationship data, right? Ultimately, you could use a Salesforce to capture all the relationship information that you have with community partners, but it requires a lot of data input, right? Somebody has to do that data input. We happen to integrate with many of these different systems, be it our CRM system or be it an ERP system, like a Banner. We happen to find a niche where we can sit on top, if not augment these systems. You'll also see systems like a Nobar, and they do really great in terms of just tracking very specific outputs that you care about, like service hours. What you're going to see me talk a lot about is the conversation of what you can track beyond just those hours. You're going to hear me talk about terminology that we use, and don't confuse it with the time to see if you actually make it unstable.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
But frozen
All right, just
for a moment though.
Yeah, you froze for a second right before GivePulse
yeah.
to.
Wonder if it's Wi-Fi. And I just realized I forgot to get my plug, so I have 9%. So my laptop is hopefully going to survive for the next few minutes I speak to you guys. But yeah, so ultimately you're going to hear me talk about the word impact, not to confuse it with the longitudinal side of understanding if you're making an impact. It's in our world a way to aggregate and capture all different types of outputs, and that could be reflections, that could be quantitative data, qualitative data, that could be just as simple as this a service hour. One of the things that I think all tracking systems do really well, the list that Sam has provided is at a very minimum, when it comes down to just tracking service hours, they do a really great job. But for a large institution or be an institution that has multiple programs, you need a system that can handle the logistics of, signing up people, managing those registrations, understanding who attended, who didn't attend, and also tracking what that relationship is between those events. So I'm going to go in and obviously I think I'll open it up to questions. So feel free to interrupt me. But I'm going to emphasize on a few key things that are hopefully going to be beneficial for you guys to know about. But these are the 3 top things that I think our system does really well. It allows individuals, groups, anyone, be it a professional, be it a faculty, staff, student, alumni, or community partner, to make an impact in the community. But you don't necessarily just make an impact. You don't necessarily just volunteer 1 hour or spread mulch and plant trees and just forget about it. There's a lot of coordination that needs to happen. So we have the second step that allows a community of individuals, administrators, to coordinate the logistics behind recruitment, management, communication, as well as tracking. So that leads to the third step, which is once you have the basics of enabling individuals, groups, and other individuals to be coordinated and to serve in the community, what are those relationships and what are those data and outputs that you can bring together and report on and understand even further? A lot of institutions care about like the overall service hour, a summary of a class, or let's just say overall service hour of a program. I would say after, if a good testament to a technology system for you guys, if you guys within the year of using the system, you can't even quickly summarize the basic service hour total of a class or a program, that system's no longer doing justice to you. And I would also challenge and say that one of I would say one of our successes within a year, usually majority of our institutions no longer talk about service hours. They always talk about how do we increase the engagement to provide a sentiment analysis of their service or the community engagement. So these are the 3 things that I think in an ideal world, any institution of higher ed or even a community partner should have to allow them to determine if they're making an impact on their clients, their stakeholders, as well as you as a partner. It just so happens that our system, when you log into our system, it does have a feel of like an OkCupid Match.com feel, where it's like I am looking for a volunteer, I'm going to input a zip code, and I'm going to search for various volunteer opportunities. The thing to note is nobody needs an account to use and access our system, but it does help because it essentially allows you to build out a profile that represents some of the things that you care about. You might care about animals, you might care about being a board member. So how can you build out a profile to allow our algorithms to match you up to your various future opportunities? But let's just say if I was a general student and I wanted to just browse around and see what's out there in Austin, Texas, we have a lot of core capacity that allows somebody to search and input certain keywords where you could see it in a list view as well as a map view. So there's definitely the whole matching side of it, right? So how do you allow community partners to list and post opportunities, but then also allow your community to seek those opportunities out by either filtering by date and time or filtering by what they care about. Now, the benefit though is when you do have an account, let me minimize this Zoom screen here. When you do have an account, the benefits are great in the fact that you as an individual, be it a student, faculty, staff, administrator, or alumni, you now have a place where all the information, all the events that you're signed up to, all the various volunteer opportunities that you're anticipating on serving, they're all located in the dashboard. So if I happen to be an administrator, then that's another story. But if I was an individual student, I get to see my overall impact in the community. I get to see what I'm signed up for in March. And obviously for my test account, I have a ton of stuff. So in most instances, unless of course you have like a really engaged student, they might have this type of calendar. But in this case, I'm obviously using the system to test the system out. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of institutions are starting to realize is how do you streamline the workflow So that way community partners don't necessarily need to log in to verify service hours, but you still want to have a simple process to confirm if that individual actually did go and serve. Well, given the time, I might not have time to talk about the whole verification workflow, but there is a workflow where I, as a student, can run my own reports and see, okay, what are the instances that I volunteered in the community? So you might notice that there's a whole bunch of bells and whistles that are already turned on my account. But in theory, if I wanted to run a report on all the instances that I volunteered at a specific organization, let's just say Asian American Resource Center, they can run their own report. They can extract the information into some type of transcript, or even further, a very basic visual display of all the instances that I volunteered with the Asian American Resource Center in Austin. You might even notice that there's instances where the community partner can actually have a dialogue conversation back and forth. So Hannah, through the volunteer experience, I got the opportunity to know Hannah. And, this is more of a way of tracking, yes, service hours, but then even further allowing me to reflect on my experience and enabling a discussion to happen with the community partner. So we've seen this opportunity to continue that dialogue be very powerful for service-oriented courses, because a lot of instances, you write a reflection, you track your hours, it goes to this Excel sheet, everyone forgets about it, right? So the idea here is why do that when there's an opportunity to intervene and make sure that person or that student is learning, or maybe even deep dive in further and see if there's opportunities to learn from these unique experiences. So there's a lot of bells and whistles. You could download a certificate, you could update the details, you could verify it again, et cetera, et cetera. But the key here is any individual, be it a student, faculty, staff, they all have their own account that they can oversee their existing engagement with the system. Now, if this information exists, there has to be a backend that allows you to oversee all the data that's being collected. Now, since everyone has an account on the system, you have to be granted administrative access to oversee either a group or a program or university. So I'm going to search my test group here, and it's going to filter all the different groups that I have. I think I have like over 200 or so that I'm a user of. And you notice that out of the choices available, there's one that's called GivePulse.org down here that I'm an administrator of. So since I'm an administrator, I can immediately hop into the backend side of things that allow me to oversee essentially a CRM of all the information of all of our students, faculty, staff, etc. We happen to have different terminology. So users is a summary of all types of stakeholders, and that could be students, faculty, staff, alumni, etc. Events is our terminology to summarize volunteer opportunities, ongoing, multi-day, recurring, or even an opportunity where it's an event where you just sign up and you attend and you don't need to track hours, right? Impacts, as I kind of mentioned at the very beginning, it's an aggregation of different various outputs. We have a whole bunch of other bells and whistles. I'm probably not going to get into it, but I did want to emphasize the fact that when you have a repository of students, faculty, and staff, you kind of want to someday probably run a report and probably filter by all those that care about community and economic enrichment. And by doing so, you now have a way of filtering down those key individuals, be it faculty members, be it students, to cater a unique message to, introduce them to new events that might be pertinent to them. This helps spur potential engaged scholarship because I think it's all about matching those students that care about poverty or care about homelessness, etc., to enable you to be potentially the matchmaker or enable us, the system, the algorithms, to automatically do that for you. But within our system is a messaging component where I can message these two individuals that care about community and economic enrichment. So we're a hybrid of a database with a lot of messaging and communication abilities. So it allows the administrator to help enable unique dialogue between those that care about a specific interest inside their profile. I'm going to take a pause here, and before I deep dive in further, see if you guys have any questions. I also noticed I have like 5%, so my computer might actually just die. Okay, I'll use that as no questions right now. So the other thing too is I think a lot of systems need a way of aggregating all of the different events. So you saw when I logged into my dashboard, I was able to see all the events I'm signed up to. Well, if I'm an administrator, I'm on the back end, I kind of want to see what George is doing, right? So I'm going to search for all the accounts that I have. Right now I have this one account. And if I want to deep dive in further, this is the back end on the administrative end, where I get to see all the information, everything that I filled out inside the system. Since I'm an administrator, I could obviously update the address. So there's a lot of editing abilities, right? But I think one of the most exciting pieces is like, if I wanted to just see this one individual, I want to see what events that they're registered to. Did they attend? Did they cancel? How many service hours did they attend per event? Did they fill out a reflection? Is it verified? What memberships they might be a part of? Are they a member of, Alpha Phi Omega, and they're also attending a service learning class? All that is aggregated in one single view, so that way on the back end you can actually see that. We do a lot of other things too. So our system is free to your community partners. So any 501c3 nonprofit can actually leverage the system. So if you ended up either donating or paying or something in terms of a financial transaction, we're helping track that, but then also remit those checks to the nonprofits. So we do a lot of things, but this is
Wait,
just...
George.
Oh, sorry,
George,
go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
Betsy. It's Betsy. I just want to jump in here and say that opportunity to offer the system for free for our community partners was huge for us because it leveraged their ability to manage their volunteers at Providence College or Rhode Island College or with Serve Rhode Island in addition to their Brown volunteers for free. Mm-hmm. And it eliminates we're hoping it will eventually eliminate some of the bulletin board feature of the Swearer Center's work, where we're posting opportunities and students are searching opportunities, and puts it all on a platform that the students feels very much like Facebook.
Right. Yeah. So just to add on to Betsy, I mean, we're gifting our solution. So all your community partners can have unlimited administrators. They can manage their volunteers in a database, and we'll even help augment, if not integrate, with their other databases. So we do a lot, but at the core of it, I do say that majority of our institutions, to what even Betsy's saying, they leverage this by essentially informing the community partners and saying, hey, this is a free solution for you, because no longer do you need Excel anymore. You can actually use this system to manage all your signups, manage all your volunteers, and we even have a mobile app that you can download to track your volunteers in and out, right? Clock in, clock out, etc. But in any case, so there's the user side of it. Then there's the other side where you could create all types of different events. We did initially when we first started the company, it was called Volunteer Opportunity Everywhere. And when it comes down to interface design, that means that volunteer opportunity exists everywhere. So we decided to find a shorter name, and ultimately we led down to event. But you might notice that when you create an event, the default is volunteer opportunity, and that's the basis of how we're founded. And if you're creating a volunteer opportunity, it could be a single day, it could be multi-day, it could be recurring. So depending on the complexity of the event, there's going to be additional bells and whistles that allow you to refine that specific experience. We do have shift management too as well. So consider us a full stack event management platform. So you could create any type of event, any permutation you can imagine within our system. But it is very focused on helping streamline hours tracking. So that way it gets to a point where it's automated, right? The other thing to consider too is we do have a lot of different various types of events. As mentioned, default is volunteer opportunity, but we have a plain event where you can just track attendance. You don't have to track service hours. It's just more about, did this person attend? We have a time slot opportunity, which is usually meant for matching tutors. So if you have tutors defining their schedules, and you want the tutors to get matched up with ones that want to be tutored. This is used heavily for that. Fundraiser is raising funds. Chaperone, it's more of like parents signing up, their underage kids that don't have emails, right? So one of the things that I wanted to emphasize on this event workflow is, I'm just going to create a test event here. There is certain privacy levels, so depending on how your network is set up, this might be pertinent to you. But this also leads to another discussion about how you could best organize your network. So we have something where we help an institution map out all their programs and the fraternities and sororities, et cetera, so that way you have a complete network system that you could help aggregate and collect data. So ultimately, what I usually like to say is, if you have a marketing, let's just say, department, and in that marketing department, a student ends up creating a capstone or a deliverable, or let's just say even volunteered 5 hours. That data is housed in marketing. And since it's a child node, it rolls upward. So everything, whenever I talk about this network visualization, I always say data rolls upward and administrator roles apply downward. So whoever's at the top, let's just say Betsy at Brown, she gets to run a report on everything collectively, or she could cherry pick and go into marketing and run a report there. So data rolls up, administrator roles apply downward. So we see this heavily used in terms of organizing programs, departments, and in different initiatives that you might have. Because every node has its own abilities to manage its own users. So it has its own membership management. It has its own tracking system. It has its own event management platform, but the data all rolls upward. Okay. So yeah, please.
So that's great. You have a tool that helps schools map out those opportunities. When you go and work with schools, like in person, is it like through webinars, or how do you?
Yeah, it's both. It's a mix of both. So we try to provide as much flexibility as possible. Our team is super responsive when it comes down to emails, but it's a mixture, right? So just like
George,
education. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, is that Betsy?
Are you going to out, it's Betsy.
Oh,
yeah.
hey.
Are you going to out me that I email you like almost every night at 10 o'clock? You always write me right back. Are you going to share that or no?
Luckily, you haven't emailed me recently, but I think you probably emailed her.
But that's because I've gotten my claws into your support team.
I mean, we're pretty good with email. And like Betsy says, yeah, I don't know if you email every night, but you email
Yeah.
maybe once a week. But yeah, I mean, I think having that flexibility, because everyone does things differently. Some people like email, some people like talking on the phone, some people like webinars, some people like face-to-face. So having that flexibility, especially when you're dealing with a large institution with faculty members that are scared of technology. I mean, having all of those really help, provide, and video tutorials, right? So like, I don't want to interact. I just want to sit in my corner. I don't want to look at video tutorials, right? So everyone learns differently, and we try to facilitate that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yeah. And then given the time that I have, I'm probably going to just say that the last thing is, it's all about tracking. I didn't even, let me before I do that, let me just create a quick test event and just say that when creating any event experience, I would say one of the most unique things about our platform is the idea that by default, we already have the pre and post set up for you. So you could already, in addition to modifying, let's just say this one experience to allow for group registration, turn on waitlisting, and approving and managing the liability waivers, et cetera, I think where we really shine is we really built the technology for higher ed. So that way, through the experience, instead of creating a separate tool and like creating an event sign up, but then also a survey, we built it in within the workflow. So the pre and post is built in, and all you need to do is just drag and drop or define new fields that you want to collect, like what's your t-shirt size, right? You could ask that. Oops, sorry, I clicked enter. But ultimately, you can drag and drop, define what those questions are, what's your T size, right? Or you can pull from an existing library of fields that we have identified through a network of universities that we've worked with. It's like, hey, these are the common fields that always show up. These are the common fields that most nonprofits use. So why recreate the wheel when you could just use this, right? So the common fields are like t-shirt size, are you willing to drive, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so within this workflow, you could obviously create your own fields, drag and drop, or you could ultimately leverage your library to do that. And if you could do that upon registration, you should also be able to do that after registration. So that's like the post. There's institutions where they want one campus-wide template, right? So you might notice that there's this one custom question that is embedded automatically in here. So there's some certain customizations within our system that say, hey, every experience moving forward that relates to service, there's this one embedded question or set of embedded questions that we want our students to fill out and collect, because this will help in terms of normalizing the data down the road. But with that said, I just want to throw that in before I pass it over to Sam. But there's this one side of it where when you do collect the data, be it service hours or reflections, you name it, there is what we call a way where you could aggregate all the data in terms of service hours, reflections, etc., and see the data. So if I wanted to see all the instances that I have tracked impacts in my master group, it literally ultimately displays all the information, and depending on how accurate the system either automatically tracks the data or either how I track the data, it would be displayed on here. You notice that there's a verified column. There's also a silly question I always like to talk about, like how do you adore Jeremiah? That is our post questionnaire, and I made it completely optional for anyone that wants to make an impact to my GivePulse.org group, that they can fill this out and say, I adore Jeremiah because he's a dog lover. And you could even search for all the different, responses and those impacts. So that way it really provides one single tool for your reporting purposes. With that said, I think my laptop's about to die, so I might even have to call in. You guys have any questions while I call here with my cell phone?
That was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna call in too. All right, so I'll pass it over to, let me see how, stop share. Okay, I think I stopped share. All right, at least that's what it says, stop share.
Yeah. Would you mind, in the corner, could you just make me a host again?
Oh, how do I do that?
Actually, maybe.
I think you can make yourself, you can take it back.
Oh, actually, no, actually, you're totally fine. I think I can.
You got it? Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna put my computer. I'm gonna call right back in though. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see.
Okay. Well, that was helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to hop off of here to go to another meeting. So
Yeah, and for people who weren't, like Zane, I know you were on the phone, I think that Sam can send out the link, and if you wanted to see the screenshots, might be useful. But,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Well, this is helpful. I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay.
All right. Bye, Zane.
Bye.
All right. So George is calling back in. So if you guys have any questions for him, but we can also do questions right at the end too. There's only two more little things I want to go through. Was that one, so this is just like a very preliminary like introduction to tracking systems. So I'm sure like some of the questions that you have are in regards to challenges. So things like, how much does this actually cost? How hard is it to get buy-in from your campus? Like how hard is it for IT to like make this work for our campus? What training, what type of management? So all of these challenges are definitely completely valid. And I think that we're going, my role, what I'm trying to hope to do in the next call is to pull together some research, comparing some of these systems and providing a little more information about these challenges, so that if this is something you want to pursue, that you already have a little bit of preliminary info about it. But this is also something that we're going to try and address in our next calls about tracking systems as well.
And I think one thing, even if you were in the end not able to go yet with the system, just seeing those previews, having a couple of those folks giving previews of their system, like on that screen where George was explaining and mapping the different organizations, that's pretty parallel to the process that Sam asked you all to do earlier in the year in terms of that inventory. And so that even, I think, going down that road might help you think about what are your current systems and how do they match these, and what are some ways that you could increase your own efficiency as well as reach. So even if at the end of the day you ended up saying, no, we're just going to go with what we have, it might enrich your thinking about it. Yeah. One thing I think this was useful to me because I know one thing, we've met George lots of times at conferences. He's always an awesome networker, but like knowing maybe that I know one question I have is like, I wonder if we can integrate this with B-Webbers, so, and it'll be something you might think about him coming to meet with the foundation staff, Bobby, to talk about. So. But I know I think I sent documentation to Bob, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, exactly. Because we have our own pretty strenuous system, which schools can use campus-wide, but it doesn't have many of the user-friendly dimensions that your system has. So it's these kind of things I think that are that whole ERP, CRM, system integration.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the last thing that before we just open it up for any questions, is just that like our next steps in this learning community and in regards to training systems. So first, it's like continuing with the strategies that we've articulated for our own campus. And then the next call, I'm hoping for early to mid-April. So I'll send out a survey for that. But some of the things that I hope to cover are, like I said, like some preliminary comparative research. And then also pulling in some Bonner campus staff, like Ari was mentioning, Savannah from Stetson, and just getting their input on how they actually implemented a tracking system effectively for them. And then going into some strategies to, like, one, overcome those challenges that we talked about just earlier briefly, like cost, IT, that type of stuff. But also for those who already have a tracking system, like strategies to expand the usage by students, staff, and partners. So that's kind of the plan for now. And yeah, and so that's what I have left. But now if we have any questions, especially with George still on the line, if we have any questions or discussion. Yeah, I feel like we've tapered off a little bit.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, if everyone wants my email, I guess feel free to share it. But it's george@givepulse.com. If you guys have any questions, if you have a bad day, you want to talk to me, let me know. Or if you want to talk about tracking systems, let me know.
Well,
but cool. Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, George, that was awesome. Thank you very much for being part of it.
Yeah, no worries. Let me know how I could help. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. I mean, we're just the technologists. You guys are the hardworking ones doing all the great work in the community.
Well, Matt,
Granted, I eat my own dog food too. As you might have noticed, I have like 700 service hours. I'm ahead of you guys.
Oh my God.
I wanted to mention one other thing. I don't know, Matt, are you still on?
I don't think so.
You had to go to the phone. Well, so one thing that we can give Sam to post to your base camp is there's a couple of internal docs that are about the Carnegie application process, and that is something that, you know, they make the application very rigorous so that schools sometimes opt out of doing it once they look at what's entailed, because you have to really demonstrate that your school has deep, pervasive, integrated civic engagement across co-curricular and curricular life. And so that is another, usually when schools do it, they assemble a team and they go through a whole process to try to get the data together and then answer all these different questions. And a lot of times that might be involving inventories and collecting things from different decentralized places and bringing it all together. So that's another thing that could be important. Is that you, Brad? Or was that, who said yeah?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Anyway, if anyone wants to add on to that, like who's gone through part of that process, that would be, that's cool.
I guess,
Ari,
yes.
Ari, this is Jana. I actually had a different question for George about integration with courses. When you were talking about that piece, I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about, is there sort of a back end for faculty to be able to see like all the people in their course, or is that more that the individual students would print out their, or somehow send, like, here's my reflection, here's my hours, or do they have a way to go in and see like all the people, if, you know, set it up like these people are in this course and these are the possible opportunities for them, that kind of thing?
Both, or all three, I guess. So from the faculty standpoint, we will integrate with your existing student information system or ERP system. So whatever your registrar uses will help integrate. Sometimes it's kind of like a chicken egg situation where the center might have identified the courses, but they're not tagged. So we'll have to work with your IT team to make sure that it's tagged, or either way, make sure that your faculty members tag it correctly. But either way, once it's in the registration system, we'll have that integration where the courses are populated within the system. So on the back end, the faculty can log in, see what the roster is. They themselves can help track those service hours and reflections and those outputs and deliverables for the students. But why do that when the students also have access to it? So what usually happens is we have that integration, the courses are populated, and the faculty member cherry picks what partners are allowed for the students to work with, or either, because it depends on the faculty member, because faculty members, depending if it's required or if there's so many different requirements. Some have like service hour requirements, some have partner requirement, or some have like a deliverable as a requirement. Some just say, hey, there's a couple of these experiences, feel free to pick, right? So faculty members have the option to either pick a partner or create an experience for their students to register and track, or either just say, hey, free for all, guys, you guys go find your partners and just track it back to the class. So yeah, we do all of that three. So that way the student can run a report and the faculty member can run a report, and also the administrator can help facilitate that service or course.
Yeah, and I think you probably have, one thing I'm going to get in touch with you about is to ask to see how you can do the student learning outcomes in here and track that.
Right.
But,
right.
And maybe we'll have you do a follow-up webinar with our other cohort that's working on kind of integrative pathways with courses, and we could do this combined or something. But that
sounds great. We'll do.
That is kind of on the agenda of a lot of schools in our network, is trying to put in place the infrastructure that will build towards an e-portfolio system, which intended with B. Weber's as well. And again, I think, yeah, this whole issue of integration is the the looming beast.
Yeah. You know, when we first started, we only integrated with like one database. Turns out every institution has like different ones, but the most popular one is either like a Banner or a Genzabar or a Colleague. I mean, those are the most popular ones. The ones that we don't want to work with is like the people stuff, but we ended up working with that too as well. But yeah. Cool. So yeah, I mean, if there's further questions, I mean, feel free to email me, george@gimpleset.com, and happy to share what I know in the industry. And like I said, I could be completely unbiased because yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot of noise at the end of the day. Lots of choices out there, and hopefully you guys learn something from my conversation. Well, actually, I think Sam actually did a really great job. I mean, she kind of summarized. Yeah. Props to Sam.
No, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so.
Yep. Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much for setting this up, and you guys have a nice Wednesday or Tuesday. Nice Tuesday. Wednesday. I'm getting my days mixed up. All right, you guys take it easy.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Later, bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for sticking on to the end.
Thanks, Sam. Bye.
Have a great day. I'll post this all on Basecamp. Bye.